Hello everybody. It is now time for a sort of retrospective. Let's look back at Kobolds and Catacombs and let's figure out what we did right and what we did wrong from our previous card opening review thing. I'm going to do it differently, however, this time, because I did it the old way where I go back and I watch the video and I pause the video after each card and I talk about what ended up happening with that card. The problem is that it ended up being about 3 hours long. So, and I didn't even cover like half the cards. So, instead what I'm going to do is I just went back and I watched it again, and I'm going to try to like hold it in my brain. And after that video actually came out, I had like long discussions with a bunch of my friends about all the other cards that I didn't open. So instead, I'm going to go down the list of all the cards, and we're going to talk about all the cards, not just the cards that I opened in my pack opening. And I'll share thoughts of what I thought then and what I thought now. Please keep in mind, however, that we're talking about my personal experiences, and my personal experiences tended to be either playing with friends or playing in the rank 25 to 15 area and no further. I never go past 15. So this is sort of like the entry level sort of stuff. So this isn't going to be like, this ended up defining the new meta. No, this is like, I didn't see that card being played, or a lot of new players got scared away from that, so I didn't see it played, and it didn't end up working, at least from the 25 to 15 level area. Maybe further on, but not from where I sat. So now that you've got that idea, let's go through the cards. So first is Aluneth, the mage legendary weapon. Before, I thought that this was a very good but a very dangerous card. You needed to put it into a deck that was very, very fast, because you'll end up milling yourself to death if you can't do that. And it turns out that, at least where I was, that ended up scaring off a lot of people. Aluneth did not get played very often because of that. A lot of people were intimidated by, in the higher ranks, you want to play a slower game. You want to get a feel for the deck and the board. You want to be able to like slowly shape the game around. And Aluneth is just too fast for your average player, so it didn't end up getting a lot of play. Arcane Artificer, I personally liked it. I quoted Kibler as this being a kicker card. It made all of your spells essentially worth one more, and it costs one, and more life is always good. It fit well into the Elemental Mage, because not only were you getting your health back, you were also getting armor back the few times you were casting spells. So I thought it was fairly good. And in Elemental Mages, this is certainly true, but in any other mage deck, it never saw any play. People got confused by it being a one cost and thinking it should go out early when that's simply not the case. It needs to come out late alongside one of your other spells. And because they couldn't count on that, and because even when they could get it off, it's only like 4 or 5 armor, a lot of people didn't see much value in that. It gets a lot of value in my decks, but otherwise a lot of people didn't see a lot of play for it. So, yeah. Arcane Tyrant, I thought that it was fairly good. I thought it was a no-brainer if you had a card that in your deck that costs, if you had a spell in your deck that costs 5 or more. So in Druid and in Mage, why not? It's a free 4/4. That's not bad. But that didn't end up coming into fruition either, mostly because Big Mage didn't really end up working. Even in the lower tiers, it didn't end up working. So, Arcane Tyrant sort of got shelved strictly for that reason. It's like, well, I can't expect a 5 or more cost spell in my hand, plus this to be in my hand at the same time. So if I can't bank on that happening, then why should I bother? I'm not going to play a 5 cost 4/4. So for a lot of people, it ended up becoming a dead card just one too many times, and so it was traded out. It's still not bad, but it was sort of shoved aside for something else. Astral Tiger. I originally thought that this was the only way Recruit Druid could work. You had to have this. You had to do specifically what they did in that video and copy a bunch of Astral Tigers and have a bunch of Astral Tigers coming out. That was the only way that Recruit Druid could work. And it turns out a lot of people agreed with me, because I did not see a single Astral Tiger the whole time. Throughout all of Kobolds and Catacombs, I never saw an Astral Tiger except in dungeon runs. And even then, it was just because some random thing happened and it happened to pop out. Next, Barkskin. I said that it was good. It was better than Claw because it boosts a minion's health and it gives you armor, so it has armor synergy, and it has synergy with big minions in Druid. It has stuff with taunts in Druid, and that was good. The problem was that +3 health and 3 armor, a lot of the time just wasn't worth the card being in the deck, you know what I mean? If this were on top of another card, or if this were smashed into a card, then that card would be good. But this card on its own is just not good enough. It's sort of like the give a minion Divine Shield, or give, or like in Warrior, you know, when they took the gain 5 armor, draw a card, and they split that in half and made a gain 5 armor card, and that gain 5 armor card was just not worth it. That was sort of what happened with Barkskin. Next is Benevolent Djinn. I thought that it was good. It was free health for Paladin. Paladins don't really care about elementals, but who cares? It's still good health for your Paladin. It's cheap. It's not the easiest thing in the world to kill with 4 health. It's not going to do any damage, but you don't want it to do damage, you want it for the health. And it turns out a lot of people agreed with that. I did see Benevolent Djinn whenever a Paladin was played and it wasn't like a Murloc Paladin, it was any other variant of Paladin, there was usually a Benevolent Djinn in there. Next, Bladed Gauntlet, the warrior not legendary weapon that was added. When it first came out, I didn't see much hope for it, because you can't attack heroes with it, so you're just using your armor to attack with, which can be good, but then you're losing the armor that you're using to attack with it, and if you're an armor warrior, you don't want to lose your armor. So why would you do that? Unless you're getting a major bonus out of it. So it's very, very niche, and it ended up, it didn't see a whole lot of play. It saw very, very little play, and then it went away. People just didn't want to play it. It wasn't worth losing the armor as a armor warrior. Next was the Boisterous Bard. I thought it was good in decks that played a lot of minions, because at the time, board filling decks was what you did. It was a popular thing to do for a lot of decks, to basically just fill the board with a whole bunch of stuff. A whole lot of token decks as well were popular at the time, so I thought that this was a good fit for that. Unfortunately, token decks sort of went the way of the dodo this time around, and because they went away, this card lost any and all usefulness. It's not good on its own as a 3-cost 3/2, and without other minions to buff with its 1 health, it's not that great, and it really needed the health itself, and it doesn't buff itself. So I was skeptical but hopeful back then, and now I know that it's pretty much just a dead card. Branching Paths. I was very hopeful for this card. I thought that all of the different options that you had with this card were great. I thought that they were, like, getting 2 of those things, any of the 2 things you get, either it's draw 2 cards, or give your minions +2 attack, or gain 12 armor. I thought those were not worth 4, but if you could mix and match, and you can mix and match, then the flexibility is worth the extra mana. Like, you know, Arcane Intellect is a 3-cost card, draw 2 cards. This is 4 cost. Well, why is it 1 cost more? For the flexibility, and I thought that was worth it. But it turns out that a lot of the time, you would rather forego that flexibility with something that's cheaper a lot of the time. If you want something that gives your minions +2 attack, then you want it to be cheap because you're playing a whole bunch of minions. If you want to gain 12 armor, you want it to be cheap because you're like trying to protect yourself and you want to play like a big taunt minion, or you want to protect yourself with more than just 12 armor for 4. And so you can't really do that. So yeah, it started off hopeful and then it slowly got whittled back, you know what I mean? Call to Arms. I thought this had a chance, but not much of a chance. Because I always liked hand buffing. And this sort of ruins hand buffing for Paladin. You're playing a bunch of your really small minions, and you want to buff those minions in hand buff. I think it sees more play now with Murlocs, but I don't know, because that's not how I thought that it would be played, it sort of blindsided me, so I can't really decide whether it... Like, it does work. It works with Murloc Paladin. But it doesn't really work anywhere else. So, yeah, I guess it has its home, and that's a good thing. Next is Candle Shot. Me and my friends could not agree with this. I thought that dealing 1 damage and being immune to attacking as a hunter doesn't mean jack diddly squat. They thought that, nah, it's a cheap weapon, it's an easy weapon to use, and you're immune while attacking. It's free damage in the early game while you're waiting to get the good stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. So we couldn't agree. And I honestly have not seen very many candle shots used, so I still don't know. I'm guessing because I haven't seen very many of it used, a lot of people also agreed that there wasn't a whole lot of use for it. But, sorry you're seeing people playing Steam down there. I tried to make it stop doing that. I don't know how to make it stop doing that. Next is Carnivorous Cube. Carnivorous Cube created its own gosh darn decks. I thought that it would be good in Druid. I thought it would be good in Warrior. I thought it would be good using it on the Lich King at any point. No. Turns out, no with any of that. Cube Locks is where it's at. Using this against that 3/9 Warlock card, that's where it's at. Who knew? Who knew that that was such a powerful thing to do? Certainly not me. But now that's everywhere. So there you go. Next, Cataclysm. No. Everybody knew. No. Everybody knew that discard lock was never going to be a thing. Cataclysm is not going to do it. And it didn't. It just didn't. Next is Cave Hydra. This was another one we couldn't really agree with, but I was more hopeful with this one. I thought that it was fairly good because it reminded me a lot of the Death Knight Warrior, but the difference is that it only does 2 damage. Hunter can't really hand buff. Hunter can't really buff, period. It can do a little. It can do a little buff, but not a big buff. So, yeah. I thought it was good for like 1 or 2 early game hits just to clear the board, and I was rebuked and told that no, Hunter can do that fine without this minion, and this minion doesn't add enough. And it looks like I was the wrong one. I've seen it played maybe twice. I see it played more, actually, as a combined card in the Death Knight Hunter. If you can get a big minion with that ability on it, then, I mean, that's akin to a legendary. So, hard to argue the results. Next, the Cavern Shiny Finder. A lot of people were really hopeful that this card was going to make Weapon Rogue work, along with the new legendary weapon, and I was one of them, and I was wrong. 100% wrong. Rogue Warrior, Weapon Rogue just simply does not work. Cheat Death, the Rogue secrets are very niche. They work very, very seldom. Like, don't get me wrong, it's nice that Rogue finally has those secrets, and the secrets aren't bad all by themselves, but they're all very... Would you just stop playing Doki Doki Literature Club? For God's sakes, is something wrong? Do I need to help you? Sorry. I'm sorry. Ugh. But yeah, the secrets aren't bad by themselves, but each of them are very, very situational, and it turns out that unless you have all three of them up at the same time, it doesn't really change much. It just doesn't. They don't do enough. They don't really affect the board too much. They just slow stuff down. Corridor Creeper was so good they had to nerf it, apparently. We all thought that... we all thought that this was going to get played. We didn't know it was going to be as good as it was. And it was so good it had to be nerfed. Now it's garbage. They nerfed it into the ground. It's not worth playing at all. Next, Corrosive Sludge. I remember in my card opening I said, "Oh look, what everybody wanted in this expansion, this weapon-focused expansion, this spellstone-centered expansion. More weapon destruction. After we already had like 3 cards that could do it, here's a 4th. Sure, why not?" So, yeah, I said it then and I'll say it now. It was going to be booted for any other weapon destruction card, and it was. Never saw play in favor of all the other weapon destruction cards. Next, Crushing Hand. At the time, I played... If that's bugging you, don't worry, it's bugging me too. I don't know how to make that stop. At the time, I ran an overload-free Shaman, and it was one of my better decks, and it really, really worked. And this card fit in perfectly with that, especially with the new Spellstone. Turns out, though, filling up your deck with that much overload and with that few number of win conditions simply couldn't last in this meta. So... unfortunately, Shaman got a massive, like, nerf in this because of it. Like, I have not seen very many Shamans being played, and the few Shamans I've seen being played are very, very old school Shamans because nobody really knows what to do with Shamans right now. They're just not that good in low ranks. Next, Crushing Walls. Destroy your opponent's left and rightmost minions. Me and my friends all agreed that this was very board placement centric, and since everybody after a certain point knows to be careful with your placement to begin with, this doesn't really work. I mean, if this were a rogue card, it would have really shook things up because, like, you place it in order to avoid betrayal, and then boom, this, and yeah. It would have been great, but in Hunter, it's not. It was never played. Next, the Crystal Lion. They tried to revive the Silverhand Recruit, At the time, I didn't think there was enough Silverhand Recruit. I thought Crystalline was not a good enough win condition kind of card for the Silverhand stuff to come back, and I was right. It didn't come back at all. I have seen Crystalline being played just on its own in other decks. Like, if you can manage to get 2 Silverhand Recruits out, then a 4-cost 5/5 with Divine Shield is good enough. But it's not defining in any way. It's just sort of a card. Meh. Next, Cursed Disciple. At the time, I thought, cool, a 5/1. It's about as good as all the other Ragers. Yeah, it's slightly stickier because it's essentially 2 Ragers, but it's still just 2 Ragers. And I was right. It doesn't see very much play. The few times it gets played, though, it actually does work pretty well. So I'm wondering if maybe it should be experimented with a little bit more than... Like, everybody sort of shelved this, and for good reason, I think. But having seen it actually work a few times, I'm wondering if maybe it deserved a little bit more tinkering before it was shelved. Dark Pact. It makes me feel icky to destroy a friendly minion, especially to restore your health, especially in this new... with all the new cards that Warlock has in order to restore health, why this? But in Q Block, it turns out that this works really well. This helps a lot, so yay for them. It still gives me an icky feeling. I don't like destroying friendly minions. I just don't. Next, the Deck of Wonders. It's not, like, at the time, and now, still... It's probably one of my favorite cards to play, especially in dungeon runs when I can get like 4 or 5 Deck of Wonders to just fill the deck with them, and it's so chaotic and fun. But it's not good. it's just fun, and that's okay. But it's not good. It certainly is no replacement for Yogg-Saron. Next, Dire Mole. At the time, I said that this card only exists for high-level play and for Deathstalker Rexar to combine something, because giving something a +4 in stats for 1 mana is really good. And I think that's right, but now I'm starting to think that it's also for when you're summoning a random minion. This thing always comes out of that darn thing, and I hate it. I'm so tired of seeing this get suddenly created in my Randomonium deck. When I'm summoning like a demon, or when I'm summoning a beast, or I'm summoning a random low-cost minion, and that thing comes out all the time. I see it one time during one of my Randomonium things. I actually played the oh god, what's it called? The one where I can discover a low-cost card, and I got this twice. Or not discover, but get a random one. I got this twice. I would never discover this card. Willingly. But yeah. So I think that's about right. Next, Dragon Soul. I personally thought at the time that while it was good, it was specifically designed for a win more condition with Raza Priest, because in no other Priest could you really cast that many spells in one turn and have the 5/5 dragon be the big thing in it. I have seen it played, but I still think that's probably about right. This can be a good replacement for Raza if you don't have Raza. I've seen people do that, where I don't have Raza for the Raza Priest, but I have this. It's close. So I have seen that. And for that, yeah, it is fairly good for that sort of thing. But it certainly doesn't compete with Raza Priest, and it's just win more in Raza Priest. Next, Dragoncaller Alana. I said it before, mages don't give a crap about dragons. This I feel was a wasted card. 9 cost 3/3 is bad. Summoning a 5/5 dragon for each spell you cost to cast this game for 5 or more. It's good if Big Priest. It's good if Big Mage works, but Big Mage did not work, and this card did not see play. I think I saw it played a maximum of 5 times, and all 5 times I only saw 2 or 3 dragons being created. And while that's good, it's not enough. It's not exactly a win condition with that. It's basically the same thing as the Warrior's Spellstone, and that isn't exactly a win condition either. So there you go. Next, Dragon Hatcher. Everybody knew this was garbage. Nobody played it. Next, Dragon's Fury. I think everybody sort of knew that mages didn't need this card. Why would you need to deal so much damage to all minions if you're a mage? You can attack the enemy board really easily. You don't need this card. And that's about right. It's probably better actually in a small spell mage, because then you can do small amounts of damage to like finish off the enemy board but keep your own. But I mean that never saw fruition. That was never even considered. So yeah, it didn't work. It doesn't work, at least not at low levels. I see the 4-star there, but again, in low levels it doesn't see play. Next, Dragon Slayer. This was created specifically to combat Dragon Priest, but it turns out that Dragon Priest didn't end up working much. I said it back then. This card's usefulness depends entirely on how good Dragon Priest works out, and it turns out that other than Duskbringer, there was no reason to bring Dragon Priest back. And yeah, Duskbringer beats this card, but it wasn't good enough. But it did lead to a new sort of deck called Big Priest, wherein you play Ysera. You bring out Ysera with Barnes for a 1/1. You let the 1/1 die, and then you resurrect Ysera over and over again, and you do something like that. That works annoyingly well, and Dragon Slayer does not combat that at all because Ysera has 12 health, and this only deals 6 damage to a dragon. Next, Drygult's Jailer. I thought it would work in a hand buff, but hand buff sort of died. I do still see this played sometimes, but just to get, like, but just to hand buff it, like, once and then get a bunch of 2/2s on the board, and maybe in conjunction with the with the lion, but usually not, actually. It turns out that having both this and the lion in your hand at the same time is harder than it seems, because I didn't see it get done. Next, Drywhisker Armorer. I was very optimistic with this card. I thought Armor Warrior was going to be very good. I thought that this card was going to help it be very, very good, because it's a lot of free armor for very little cost and for very little work. Problem is that Armor Warrior doesn't work. So, in conjunction, that card doesn't work either. Duskbreaker! It was very strong for a while. In the beginning, it was very, very strong, and everybody hated it. But people have since sort of worked their way around it now, and like, this, for a moment, made Dragon Priest just blip back to life for a second. But with it being the only thing, really, it very quickly died off again. Duskbringer is still played in, like, Big Priest, because Big Priest has Ysera in hand most of the time. And if not Ysera, it has other dragons, such as Deathwing or Alexstrasza. So it's still played in that, but it's more of a footnote than a big card. You know what I mean? Next, Ebon Dragonsmith. I was very optimistic for the card. I thought it was going to be good because of all these weapons. I mean, the expansion gave everybody legendary weapons. It gave Warrior like a whole second weapon. I thought that the weapon was going to be good. Weapon Rogue was going to be a thing. I thought, and I was wrong. It wasn't, and in conjunction, this card was never played. Elven Minstrel, I actually thought was going to be very bad. I did not have high hopes for that card. I thought that, yeah, it's not hard to combo with a 4-cost card. The problem is that you're comboing a 4-cost card to draw more minions into your hand. And for one reason or another, I thought that was bad. I thought it would be better if it were just to draw 2 cards, or maybe draw 2 spells, because if you're comboing as a rogue, you want more spells than you want minions, right? Well, it turns out... I was wrong. It turns out I was way off the mark with that, and getting 2 minions from your deck is very helpful, even when you're not playing a combo rogue. So, there you go. I was wrong. Evasion, another of the rogue secrets. Like I said, unless you have all 3, it's not worth. Because they just do too little. Explosive runes. Everybody knew it was going to be good, and turns out, yeah, it's good. It's just plain good. It is a very, very welcome secret to get. So, yeah. It's very good. Falderai Strider. I thought that this card was good, but not impressive. I thought it would be better in Wild when you could do both. When you could put the spiders in their deck and your deck and just have spiders, just like you kill off spiders to get more spiders, and then you draw more spiders and you kill those spiders off to make room for more spiders. And I thought that was really going to be it. But it turns out that even without that, there is some good play you can make with Falderai Strider. I thought that mill rogues and draw rogues are basically out. And this was like some sort of an attempt to bring it back to life, and not welcome, because I don't like mill rogues. But it turns out that it's good even not in a mill rogue, because, hey, a free 4/4 is a free 4/4 in rogue, which means more in rogue than it does in mage, where a free 4/4 is, I guess, less impressive. Next, Feral Gibberer. We all knew this was crap, it was just for fun, and that's okay. I love playing Feral Gibberer. It's a lot of fun. I really only ever play him when I have that quest to play low-cost minions, and I'll make that hunter quest deck, and I'll put Feral Gibberers in it, and it scares the crap out of him every time. It's like, oh crap, he's playing Feral Gibberer in a quest hunter deck? No, I cannot let this pass! And then they die immediately. But whatever, I give the enemy a slight heart attack for a split second, and that's good enough, especially with their cute little noises. Next, Flanking Strike. I thought it was going to be good if Spell Hunter was good. Spell Hunter's not good. We all kind of knew Spell Hunter was not going to be good. And I thought that if I was wrong and Spell Hunter is good, that card was going to be in it. And yeah, Spell Hunter's not good. Subsequently, this card was not used. I have seen it used at very low levels, but at such low levels, in fact, that they don't really know how to use it, and they usually hit their own minions with it, even though I have minions on the board, which is cute. But it doesn't say a friendly minion, it just says a minion. Cute. Next, Fungal Enchanter. I thought this card was good, and it wasn't. Not much else to say, really. I thought, because at the time token decks were a thing, I thought that this was going to be useful in a token deck, and token deck sort of died, and subsequently that card died as well. Fungalmancer I thought was crap. It's just a 5-cost 2/2. If it were a 5-cost... I said if it were a 5-cost 3/4 and did the same thing, then it would be good. It's not, and it's not, and it wasn't, and it's... yeah, never played. Next, Furbolg Mossbinder. We all knew it was bad, and it was. Never played. Next, Gather Your Party. Gather Your Party. Recruit Warrior was tried, and it's still being tried a little bit, this card is still only seen sometimes in that, so nope. Gem-studded Golem. Even back then I thought it was good. I still think it's good. It's basically Sagat the Slitherer, discounted a few points, and without spell immunity. And even then, it's still good. You don't even have to have 5 armor for it to be good, because it's a taunt. They have to deal with it anyway. Who cares if it can attack? It's good. Geosculper Yipped. At the time, I thought it was really good. After I played it some in dungeon, in dungeon runs, I thought it was really, really good. But it never saw play, and Armor Warrior sort of hinged on it being good. And Armor Warrior wasn't good. This wasn't good, and yeah. It just didn't end up working. Next, Gilded Gargoyle. Back then I said a 3-cost 2/2 is pathetic, even if it gives you a coin. And yeah, it is pretty pathetic, even though it gives you a coin. Good in Raza Priest for the coin specifically, but not good enough, I feel, even in a Raza Priest, so. Grand Archivist. Back then, I thought it was crap because it's using your spells from your deck, chosen randomly, so you can't get the spells off the way you want to cast them. It costs 8 mana for 4/7. It was crap, and it's crap. Everybody knows it's crap, it's crap. Next, Gravel Snout Knight. I was hopeful. I thought it was essentially a 1-cost 1/2 roundabouts, because usually you'll summon either a 2/1 or a 2/2 for your opponent with a 1-cost stat line. The worst you could possibly do is summon another Gravel Snout Knight for your opponent. But even that scared off most people, and it never got played. I still think it's not bad, but it doesn't ever get played. Next, Greedy Sprite. I was hopeful because gaining an empty mana crystal is always good for Druid, but it turns out that with only 1 health, even though the death rattle is something you want, it's still not great. Yeah, it's not great. It's not good enough. You would pass this over for the Jade one, for the Jade card. Now that the Jade card's going away, maybe this will see more play, but. Next, Green Jelly. 5 cost 3/3. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/2 with taunt. Yeah, 5 cost 3/3 is just pathetic, and it's just a worse Hogger, and even Hogger never saw play. So back then I knew it was trash, and it's still trash. Nobody ever played it. Grizzled Guardian. This card made me upset when I first saw it, because you don't want to recruit cards that cost 4 or less as Druid. You just don't. I see people try to play Recruit Druid, and it makes me mad every time I see this card, because they never get the good card. Like I said, I never saw that stupid Astral Tiger the whole time I played. It's always a card that would have been better off if you played it from your hand, and it makes me sad because I like Druid, and I don't like what they're doing to Druid. Stop it. Stop it. Next, Grumble the World Shaker. I thought it had some potential to revive Elemental Shaman. I always thought the idea of an Elemental Shaman would be cool, because I like Elemental Shaman in WoW, and it's sort of sad that Elemental Shaman doesn't really work in Hearthstone. I thought that this card would make it work. With the other Elemental synergies that came out. Turns out, no, not really. So, there you go. Next, Guild Recruiter. Recruit does not work. At the time, I thought 5 cost 2/4 is sad, and recruiting another minion, maybe that card is good, and that makes up for it, so it balances out in stats. But it doesn't matter because recruit is lame. It's just not. It's not worth it. Next, Healing Rain. At the time, I thought it was good, and I still think it's good. It is, even though Shaman got shafted, and thus this card got shafted, whenever I play Shaman, this card will be in there, and whenever I see Shaman, this card is usually there. So, there you go. 12 health divided randomly among friendly characters is just good. Next, Hoarding Dragon. You never want to give your opponent 2 coins. I said it over and over again, and I still believe it's true. I do see this card more often now, especially in people who are trying to make Dragon Priest work but don't have the cards for it. But it doesn't work. Plain and simple. One time something funny happened with it, though. I played 2 of these, the opponent killed it, filled their hand, and they drew their Death Knight. And it burned because their hand was full of coins. That was funny. But that's the only time. That's the only time that's ever worked. Next, Hook Reaver. It's a 4-mana 7/7 for Warlock, and Warlock is capable of bringing themselves really low on health and then healing themselves back up. I said that back then, and I'm saying it now. It's good. Next, hungerhead. Back then, I was hopeful. I thought that there are 2 cost minions with poisonous, and if you get them, you're sad, but otherwise it's good. People didn't agree with me, and it never got played. Ironwood Golem. I was skeptical back then, but I have since learned that it is not important that it can attack. And the few times you luck out and you recruit it in those god-awful druid recruit decks, then it's good. Even then, it's still a wall that has to be dealt with, and can only be really easily dealt with by priests, because it has 3 attack. But, that's still not bad. What do I know? Ixlid the Fungal Lord. We all knew that this was also it's a just for fun card. It's not great, but I played it in my quest legendary druid, where it's just the quest and a whole bunch of like ramp and legendaries, and this card is in that, and oh my god, it was so funny. It was so funny. I played this, and then I played the Lich King, and then I played oh god, what did I play? I played that 8/8 with taunt tree. I played I just filled the board with 8/8s. It was so funny. And that's what that deck that's what this card is created for. Otherwise it's crap. Katrina Winter Wisp. Back then I thought it was a good card. It's best when you get the Savannah Highmane out of it, but even if you get something small out of it, it's still not bad. People tended to agree with me. However, since then it's slowly been whittled out of people's decks. I haven't seen Katrina Winter Wisp in months. Next, King Togwaggle, another just for fun card. It's used just for fun. See it very, 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 very rarely. I think I've seen it twice. Kingsbane. Everybody thought Weapon Rogue was going to be good. Look at that, it's got 4.5 stars. And we were all wrong. Kobold Apprentice, we all knew it was bad, and it's bad. It's essentially a 2-cost card that costs 3, and it's bad. Kobold Barbarian, I was hopeful for, because you don't need to control where the thing is going to attack as a warrior. If you're playing a Rage Warrior, or you're playing a World Warrior, or you're playing an Armor Warrior, or a Taunt Warrior, any kind of warrior, it doesn't really matter what you attack with this card, because it only costs 3, it does 4/4, and it's gonna hit something. Yeah. And, people that didn't agree with me, and I never saw play. I still play it. Kobold Hermit. I was slightly hopeful because, hey, it allows you to choose a basic totem and summon it. There's totem synergy this time around, but Shaman just got shafted. This card was not good enough. It probably should have cost 1, maybe. But, yeah, didn't see play. Kobolds Illusionist, I was hopeful for, and it didn't come to fruition. There you go. Kobold Librarian, we all knew it was good, and it was. Kobold Monk, I really liked this card, and I still like this card. It would be better if it also protected itself. If it were instead a 4-cost 3/3, it can't be attacked by targeted by spells or hero powers, and it makes it so that your hero can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. That would be really good, because as soon as you play this card, the enemy guns it down. They destroy it. And that's not bad, but it's not great either, especially if they're priest and they can just like spend one card and bam, it's gone. Amethyst Spellstone, we all knew it was good, and it was. Diamond Spellstone, I was hopeful for, didn't come to fruition. Emerald Spellstone, I was skeptical, so was everybody else. It is still played sometimes, not very often, to be perfectly honest. Not enough. I actually think it should be played more than it is being played. Especially since it's not hard to find 2 good Hunter Secrets, but it's just not reliable enough. You can't get it in your hand and play those secrets, because you want to play those secrets early. You can't guarantee this in your opening hand, and 5-cost summon 2/3/3 wolves, it just isn't good enough in the late game, so yeah, there you go. Jasper Spellstone, I was skeptical of. Turns out it's good. I thought it would be okay. I thought it would just be okay. Turns out it's not just okay, it's very good. So, there you go. Lesser Mithril Spellstone, I was mad they didn't have Taunt then. I'm still kind of mad they don't have Taunt now. Because when you play them, it plays that animation as if they have Taunt. They don't have Taunt. It drives me nuts. And 3/5/5s is not good enough without Taunt. Next, Onyx Spellstone. Death Rattle doesn't work. Death Rattle didn't work. Death Rattle's never gonna fucking work. Next, Lesser Pearl Spellstone. This card was obviously made in conjunction with the Djinn. I thought that, other than the Djinn, Paladin does not heal itself enough to matter, but even at 2 cost, it's an upgrade of the 2-cost 2/2 with Taunt, and then it just gets better from there. The problem is that you only play that card if you are like 2 days into 2 days into Hearthstone, excuse me. If you've been playing Hearthstone for exactly 2 days, you play that 2-cost 2/2 with Taunt. So, it's good, but it got booted for better stuff. Next, Lesser Ruby Spellstone. The card was trying to mash 2 different decks together, and it just doesn't work. You don't want to play this card in an elemental deck. You don't have enough elementals to play this card in a randomonium or random spell deck. So what's the point? It's just not good enough. Next, Sapphire Spellstone. In my Freeze Mage Shaman, I thought it was gonna be good, and it is so sweet when I can play that Frost Fury Giant and then copy it and fill the board. But it's just for fun. It's not really all that good. That's just too much overload in one game, and you can't guarantee this is going to be in your hand. That has been the most rage-inducing thing for me. Trying to play this card in an overload deck and not getting it in your opening hand. Because if you don't get it in your opening hand, you don't play it with all those low-level stuff, with your 4-mana 7/7s, or your 2/2/3s with Taunt, or your Drakari Shield Master. If you don't have this in your starting hand, it's just not worth playing. And, yeah. Next, Level Up. Like I said, I was skeptical that Silverhand Recruit synergy was going to come back. If it does, this was an insta-put in that. It wasn't, and it's not. And there you go. Leyline Manipulator. We all knew it was going to be good, and it was. Lone Champion. Saw some play. I thought that it was going to be okay, but you never want to have no minions on the board, you know what I mean? Especially by turn 3, you want to have something on the board. If something's not on the board, that means you're losing. And this is a good card to sort of slow that down, but it doesn't necessarily fix it. So it's just okay. And yeah, I don't see it very often. Lanessa Sun Sorrow, we were all secretly kind of hopeful that the Kaleidosaur plus Lanessa Sun Sorrow deck was going to work. We all secretly hoped that in our hearts, I think. And it was never going to. Next, Marin the Fox. I mean, it came out before Kobolds and Catacombs did. We all know how much fun it is and how cool it is, and how if you don't get that one specific treasure, you know which treasure it is, then you get sad. Next, Master Oakheart. I was skeptical. Turns out when you can play it, it's good. It's probably the only recruit card that's like really, really good and totally worth it. So, hooray for Master Oakheart. Still don't see it played. Murmuring Elemental. Like I said, I wanted Elemental Shaman to work. Shaman as a whole ended up not working. So, Oaken Summons. I've already given my thoughts about frickin' recruit druid and how that's... No, stop it. It doesn't work. Unless you have Astral Tiger and no other 4-cost minion in your deck. No 4 or less. And that's it. And you can't do that in druid. You just can't. So stop it. Next, sorry, I'm speeding up, and so I'm getting more emotional. I'm trying to get this done in a timely manner. It's already been almost an hour. Next, Plated Beetle. Good for the armor decks. The armor decks didn't work. I still play it sometimes, but yeah, it doesn't work. Next, Possessed Lackey. It's good in Cube Lock. It's good in Skull of the Minari Warlock. Warlock is probably the only class that really works with Recruit. Too bad there's not a lot of good Recruit for Warlock. Except for this guy, and it works. We didn't think it was going to work. Nobody thought it was going to work. But it turns out it works. Next, Potion of Heroism. We all thought it was going to work, and it doesn't. Next, Primal Talismans. I was kind of hopeful for Totem Shaman. Shaman as a whole doesn't work. Next, Psionic Probe. I remember saying in Raza Priest, it's good because you're casting a spell to get a spell, which in Raza is what you want, especially since when you're casting both of those spells, you get a whole nother spell back with Raza. So in Raza, it's good, but otherwise, you don't want to cast this over the other one because sometimes you'll get a minion, and even, yeah, when you get a bad minion, it's still a minion. Next, Psychic Scream. Everybody else loved this card. I was skeptical. I didn't think it was going to work. It makes me feel icky internally. Always. I don't like this card. And turns out, in the lower ranks at least, I was right. I saw play like for the first week, and then I never saw it played again. Next, Raven Familiar. I was skeptical with this card. I argued you would want to get like a Flame Strike or something from this. But if you did that, then you're sitting on a Flame Strike for 5 turns, and your enemy knows you have it now. So what is even the point? He's totally going to play around it. I still play it sometimes, especially in decks that have wider ranges of spells, because I can see what my opponent has, even if I don't get it. And if I do get it, sometimes I'll get like a Fireball, which is great. Sometimes, if I'm playing against a warrior, they won't even have it. Well, not warrior, but sometimes I'll get really, really lucky and the opponent won't have any spells left when I play this, and I'll get something nice in the late game. Next, Reckless Flurry. I argued that in Armor Warrior, you don't want to lose your armor. Why would you ever want to do that? And in Whirl Warrior, you have enough Whirl. Why would you want this card? And at least in low levels, I was right. I'm seeing that 4.5 stars, but at least in low levels, I didn't see it played very much. Next, Rock Dalar. We all knew that Spell Hunter wasn't going to work. This weapon was never going to work, and it didn't work, and yeah. Next, Rin the First Disciple. We all knew that the 30-40 mana dream was never going to happen, and it didn't. I think Trump managed to get it to work once, otherwise, yeah. Next, Rummaging Kobold. I said that this card was only going to work if the weapon metas worked. If I cited Weapon Rogue because we all thought Weapon Rogue, but yeah, if any of the weapons worked, this card was going to be used to get that weapon back. And to my knowledge, none of them worked. So Rummaging Kobold died. Next, Scorpomatic. We all wondered why the heck there was a mech card. Mech card hasn't been a thing since Goblins and Gnomes. So, yeah, it sees play every once in a while by accident. Next, Seeping Oozling. We all looked at this card and we went, why would you play this over... Why would you put this in your deck when you want to play Savannah Highmane on turn 6? Maybe you play this if you didn't draw your Savannah Highmane, but even then, it's not as good as your Savannah Highmane. I don't see it played. I just don't. Next, Sewer Crawler. We all knew it was crap, and it was. Next, Shifting Scroll. We all knew it was fun, and it was. Next, Shimmering Corsair. We all knew it was pretty and useless. No, that's not true. I was very hopeful. I thought that this card was going to see play, if for no other reason than look at that darn card art, but to be perfectly honest, I saw it played once in the first week and never again, and it makes me eternally sad because it is so gosh darn pretty. Next, Shrieking Shroom. I love the card. I knew it was bad. It's bad. I still love the card. Next, Shroom Brewer. Back then, I called it the perfect pack filler to get tossed out later down the road, and I was right. It was played early on, and then tossed out for better stuff. Next, Silver Vanguard. We all knew it was shit, and it was. Next, Skull of the Minari. We all knew it was shit, and we were wrong! It's great. It defined its own deck. Good for it. Thumbs up, Skull of the Minari. Next, Sleeping Dragon. We all knew it was shit, and it was. Next, Sneaky Devil. We all knew it was shit, and it was. Next, Sonia's Shadow Dancer. We all secretly hoped it would work, but I honestly have never seen her. Next, Spiteful Summoner. We all knew it was shit, but I still see it played all the gosh damn time. Somehow we all thought this card was going to be bad, and it turned out not being bad. Go figure. Next, Stone Skin Basilisk. We all knew it was shit, and it gets played all the time as a pack filler. So there you go. At least it's got its home as a pack filler for people who don't have all the cards, like me. Next, Sudden Betrayal. I've said it with the past two. Rogue Secrets. They're just not good enough. They don't define. They don't have enough of an impact. They don't matter enough unless you have all three on the board, and then it's a reason to be scared. Next, Temporis. We all knew it was shit, but it's still actually kind of fun. It's not the game-ending card or the win-more card we thought it was. But at the same time, it's still just for funsies. Next, the Darkness. We all knew it was for fun, and it was. Next, the Rune Spear. We all knew it was shit, and it was. Next, To My Side. We all knew it was shit, and it was. Next, Toothy Chest. We all knew it was shit, and it was. Next, Draw Glue Meter. I said it was shit, and it was. Next, Twig of the World Tree. We all were kind of skeptical about this card, and I've seen it played like twice, and there you go. I don't have it, and I kind of wish I did, but it doesn't see play. Next, Twilight Acolyte. We all thought it was great, and it never sees play, ever. Next, Twilight's Call. We all could not agree. Death Rattle Priest was really good when Kobolds and Catacombs first came out. Quest Priest was really good. But Priest Quest has since died. What did I say? Quest Priest? Quest Priest has since died since Kobolds and Catacombs came out, and Twilight's Call died with it. Next, Unidentified Elixir. We were all very hopeful of the Unidentified card. Well, Unidentified Elixir, but Unidentified Elixir got tossed out for better things when Big Priest and Dragon Priest came out because they're playing big stuff. They don't need it to get bigger. Why play this card? Next, Unidentified Maul. None of us could agree. It was all either 75% good, 50% good, 25% good. There was some good in it, but no one could agree how much and which ones, and no one could agree with the Unidentified Maul. I've heard that in high levels, it's actually really good, but in low levels, it got booted out real fast. Nobody plays this card. Unidentified Shield, we all knew it was bad, and it still sees a little bit of play, But yeah, Armor Warrior and Taunt Warrior didn't work, so this card doesn't work. Next, Unstable Evolution, we all knew it was amazing! And it was so amazing that it created a new tagline for Witchwood. Next, Valunir. We all knew it was good, and it was. Although I very rarely see it played. I wonder why. Next, Violet Worm. I put up a stink about this card. I did not think it was good. I thought that it was created for token decks. It was created for recruit decks. It was created to... It seemed to try to be pushing this token recruit deck, which doesn't make any sense, and I didn't know what to make of it. I never see it played, so whatever. Void Ripper. We were all very, very hopeful for that card, but I never see it played. Void Lord. We all thought it was actually... it was 50-50 right down the middle. Either it was shit or it was busted. We couldn't agree. I was on the side of it being busted, and yeah, it was so busted that it, along with Cube, created its own meta. So there you go. Next, Vulgar Homunculus. We all knew it was good, and it was. Wandering Monster. It was also split down the middle 50-50. I was on the side of it being good. I don't see it played very often, but when it is played, it is useful. Wax Elemental, we all knew it was shit, it was. Windshear Stormcaller, we were all hopeful for Totem Shaman, because token was a thing, and totems were tokens, essentially, and we could play them all out, and we could finally live the Shaman dream of getting all the totems out, and then we could summon Alakir the Windlord for free, and that's so amazing, and it never happened, and Shaman died. Woe Cleaver, it was only going to be good if Recruit Warrior was good. Recruit Warrior is not good, therefore it is not good. Zilla the Gorgon, we all knew it was good, and it was. And that is the last card. There we go. I cut 3 hours down to 1 hour and 2 minutes. Hooray for me. I did start really speeding up there at the end, but I think I got it across very well. I was repeating myself a whole lot, and I picked up on that, and so I sped up. Yeah, that's more or less what happened with this expansion. Either everybody knew it was crap and it was, or everybody thought that it was busted and it wasn't. It was very much a hype train expansion, and some of the cards ended up changing the meta entirely, and we could not have guessed which ones did it. So, there you go. That was Kobolds and Catacombs. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye, everybody.